Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Starside Chat. Feels natural to say. My name is Aaron, and with me as always is my co-host, Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. I am chugging along on my schoolwork. How about you?
Same, just trying to get through this last semester. I'll be done after this, so...
Ooh, I'm jealous.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I'm excited to be done. On the other hand, I'm stressed about what comes next.
Yeah. Nice not to have to commute, though, starting soon.
I actually kind of like the commute. Maybe it's just because I'm used to, driving there and back, or, even before that, I was used to commuting when I would visit my girlfriend. And so I would, listen to a lot of podcasts and audiobooks, and then you don't think about it until you don't need to make that long of a drive anymore. And then you're just I have no more time to listen to my stuff anymore. How do I fill that? But
let's get an update. How far are you into the Expanse series?
I am, where did I get to? Today, I think I got to chapter 10 in the second book, which is still fairly early on. Those books run 30, 40 chapters. They're up there.
Oh, wow. How is it? Still staying true to the TV series?
Yeah. I mean, I want to say there are characters that just got introduced in the second book that have been around longer in the series, just because.
Oh, really?
So I think the series does a little bit better job of stretching some stuff out. I guess spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the show, but you meet Bobby. She's the Martian Marine. You meet her at the beginning of season 2, right?
Right.
You also meet her at the beginning of book 2. The only difference is the show sort of takes its time introducing the character and setting her up a little bit, whereas the first time you meet Bobby in the book is the scene where she's out there with her squad, and the UN Marines are running away, being chased by the
something.
The thing. And then so that doesn't happen in season 2 for a few episodes, I feel like.
Yeah, you're right.
So the TV show actually does handle some of that stuff a little bit better. I was actually kind of surprised. I thought it would be the other way around, but I don't know. I'm going to keep listening because I mean, I still enjoy it. If nothing else, it's filling up my car rides or whatever, or my walks around campus to I'm still in the Expanse, even though I can't just be sitting around watching it right now. So
You still using those Pixel Buds?
Oh yeah, every day.
I'm jealous.
I'm sure they're not the most comfortable or even the best sounding, but they sound pretty good to me. Granted, I'm not a crazy audiophile or anything, but I think they're better than a lot of people gave them credit for when they first came out. But
well, should we get into the news?
We should, because this is the thing. The first story that you called our top story in all caps is
very excited.
Something I was completely unaware of. So.
Me too, until about 2 hours ago when I saw it. I guess they just announced this, but Hyper Light Drifter, which I feel like I have talked about at length on this podcast before because I love it, is getting an animated series. It's in the works. It's from the producer of the Castlevania animated series.
Oh, so is this going to be a Netflix exclusive?
I would assume. But I'm very excited for this. I would love for them to bring on that Disaster Piece artist.
That was going to be my first question is, did they get Disaster Piece?
I don't know, but that would be great. I mean, I assume they can use, I guess I don't know about legalese or whatever, but I assume that they can use music from the game, which would be great.
Yeah, it would. It's got a great soundtrack. It's very good.
My fear is that they'll do that cheap kind of Netflix animation where it's basically just 3D models with gross textures on top of them, kind of like that Dragon Prince. Did you ever watch that?
No.
I want it to actually be animated. I don't want it to be some faux 3D type thing. So I'm interested to see. I didn't watch the Castlevania, but I guess it'll be similar to that, I assume. If you had to have a recent, I guess not recent, if you had to have any video game become an animated Netflix series, what would be your number one?
I don't know if it's the best choice, but just it popped into my head almost immediately when you said it was Cuphead, but maybe that's too obvious.
I would like that, actually. That would be cool.
Well, that would be kind of cool. I think it would be a lot of fun, but Maybe it's just because I also love like old timey cartoons. I grew up watching Looney Tunes, not whatever.
Oh yeah.
So, you know.
Man, that would be cool. Who knows? I mean, it's coming to Switch. Maybe they're open to doing a bunch of stuff. Like if this is successful, maybe it opens a door for. I mean, I know Castlevania was hugely successful. Everyone said that was really good.
Yeah.
Speaking of vampires, Zach.
Yeah, I know nothing about this, so you'll have to explain to me.
Zach, I recall being a young child in high school in some dumb typing class that I did not care about. And we had a ton of downtime in that class because the teacher was like the head of the cheerleaders. And so cheerleaders would just come in during that class and they would just like hold court and like chill out. And we would just be left to our own devices on computers. And the number one thing I did in that class is look up news about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which was imminently releasing. And it was great. I bought it day one, came out the same day as Half-Life 2, as many people have brought up. But man, it was crazy. Just like the music and the tone and the atmosphere of that game was exactly what I wanted as a high schooler. And you had so much crazy choice. Like, I guess similar to the Outer Worlds now, because I guess it's some of the same developers maybe.
Oh, really?
But like in the Outer Worlds, you can choose that dumb option where you can just be an idiot the entire time.
Yeah.
That's kind of stemming from Bloodlines, I think, because
that was in Fallout as well.
It's similar. I think those maybe share similar ties. But in the first one, the like character class or like race, because there's different clans of vampires, the race you chose was like it would vastly change the gameplay to the point where it was almost a different game. I always played as I want to say like the Tremere, which is the blood magic kind. So you could do a bunch of crazy stuff, but it soaked up your blood meter, so you had to feed more. But you could be like one of those vampires from like Nosferatu, where your face is all messed up.
I would probably pick that one.
Well, that made it very hard because you
really?
could never interact with humans. And there's a ton of storylines where you have to talk to humans. So you just have to subvert those in different crazy ways. Or there's another class similar to the Outer Worlds. There's another class where instead of being dumb, you're just a complete insane person. Like these vampires are just completely crazy. And like all of your dialogue options are... I never played as that because I wanted like a generic... easy experience, but apparently your dialogue options, I guess it's similar to in Fallout. If you have like very low IQ, you can just have these crazy dialogue options.
Yeah,
but it was great.
I never played Fallout that way, but it was like the idea of it was hilarious to me that you could like play a super dumb character that just was like all of your dialogue options sounded like sort of gibberish, or they were like you were just a complete idiot. That didn't make any sense.
I would assume this is going to be a return to... So what we're saying is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines at GDC, it was announced that after 15 years, it's finally getting a sequel set in... The first one was set in LA, which is another cool thing. But this one is set in Seattle. And it's it looks great. I mean, I guess they didn't show any gameplay, but they showed just like a visualized trailer of it. But I'm very excited for this. I loved the first one. I played through it like 3 times... because that was one bad thing about it. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 1 was very broken. Like there was a part where I went to a haunted house, I think, and it just like did not work for me. But the community kept supporting it. And so there's like patches and patches and patches of community patches. And I think even when you buy this on goodoldgames.com, it comes with a community patch to like up it. Because it was very broken in the early days. It was very early days of the Source engine. But I was super into this because I loved Bloodlines back in the day, and I can't wait to see more of this one. I assume we'll see more at E3, actual gameplay.
Yeah, they didn't. So they didn't give any sort of release window.
I think they said Q1 2020 maybe. But I mean, this is basically the first one. I would equate it to like Morrowind, but in LA kind of. Not as expansive, obviously, because there's like you're zoned off. Like the first part of the game takes place in a certain zone of LA, and then you unlock a second zone. It's more like GTA, maybe, in that respect, but it's first person. But just like your player choice, you're able to like subvert like every kind of like how Cyberpunk 2077 is. They're saying like, oh yeah, you can solve every quest in like 3 to 5 different ways. It's not that complicated, but I felt like smart solving some of these things. It's like how in like old Deus Ex games you could like kind of cheat the system, but you were still within the bounds of reality. Something like that. I don't know. I loved the first. I have a very soft spot in my heart for the first one, and so I was very excited to see this announced at GDC.
All right, here's a question then. Since this
you could
is
hack
like
in it also.
Since this is like so out of the blue, like what's another mid 2000s game that you want a sequel to that nobody would see coming?
Man, you know what I would love is this is probably impossible, but I would love a sequel to this already exists, but I would love a sequel to the original Deus Ex, but in the old style, kind of like a retro, like you know how Ion Maiden is coming out and it's like a retro game.
Yeah.
Like a retro style Deus Ex, I guess like Cyberpunk 2077, but like down-resed a bunch, so you get that like 90s game aesthetic. I think that would be very cool, like Deus Ex 1.5, because there is a Deus Ex Invisible Wars, but I think that would be a crazy game to see. What about you?
I didn't have anything in mind for that. What was I playing in the mid-2000s?
I was playing a bunch of... so Half-Life 2 came out, and then Bloodlines on the same day. Deus Ex. Thief is a game I love, but recent iterations of it have been very bad.
Yeah.
But I would love an old-school Thief game that actually got the stealth mechanics right, not like the most recent one that came out. Man, Thief 2 was such a good game. Metal Age.
Oh, how about this? Although, it's not like there's not been, like, sequels or, like, additional games in this franchise, but, like, the Super Mario Galaxy games.
Ooh.
Because I, like, completely missed out on the Wii generation of Mario games.
Yeah, I did too.
So, like, even if they wanted to do just sort of, like, some sort of expansion to Mario Odyssey that just, like, had that whole, like, sort of planetary exploration type of a thing going on.
That would be great.
That would be interesting, but...
Yeah, what about Time Splitters?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, Time Splitters for sure. I definitely want them to, like, do, like, sort of a modernized version of that, because that would be awesome. I love Time Splitters, too.
Yeah, me too.
Or they could do,
Conker's
like...
Bad Fur Day?
They could do another Portal game.
That's never going to happen.
Valve
we should take Valve out of this equation.
Valve doesn't really make games anymore.
Unfortunately, I mean, maybe they're going to wow us with some VR stuff in the future, but that one guy left and, like, wrote that forum post where he was basically like, this is what would happen in Half-Life 3.
This is what would happen, but it's never going to. Yeah, that's another one. Why not just actually make Half-Life 3?
That would be great. I mean, Portal 3 would be great. Left 4 Dead 3. They've never made a third iteration of any game.
Yeah, well...
You know what I keep waiting for is Source 2. Like, I feel like every year, I'm like, oh yeah, wasn't Source 2 supposed to come out and be a giant thing? And I look it up and there's like no new information about it.
Yeah, I wonder why. Like, why did that stall so badly?
They just started making too much money, man.
They just don't care anymore. One that I would like to see, and I think a lot of people have been calling for this for years, but it's not like a mid-2000s thing. It's like goes back even further, is Mother 3, which I guess like in the US we call it Earthbound.
Right.
But I don't know, like maybe I should go back and like finish the first one, but I started it and I was into it, and I kind of want, like, if Nintendo is like bringing back older franchises or like sort of reimagining things kind of the way they're doing with that Zelda game.
Yeah.
What if they did that with Earthbound?
I would be into that. I've almost played Earthbound a bunch of times and have not, just because I don't want to play it on an emulator.
Yeah.
But
well, that's a good reason to get the SNES Classic.
Yeah, that's a good point. System Shock, I guess, would be another thing from the old days, but they're already doing that. It's not in our show notes, but apparently people are super excited for that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought I heard something about that recently. Anyway, we can move on. So Apple also had a little press conference in which they announced Apple Arcade, which is a curated service for paid games. What do you think of this?
I don't understand who it's for.
Yeah, because it looks like mainly iOS games.
It's only on iOS.
It's not like, this is like then they were thinking, okay, so Google's trying to get into gaming. We've seen that before with the Ouya. We know what they're going to do. It's just going to be like dumb games or like mobile games and stuff like that. Like, let's compete with them in that space. And so they're like preparing this like curated, iOS game things, and then like just before they announce it, Google drops Stadia, and they're like, "Oops, we misread the room here."
I mean, I feel like I don't play a ton of phone games. I mean, neither of us have iPhones, and we never will probably. So this is in no way relevant to us. I don't know. I mean, I put this in the show notes, but really the only thing we have to say about it is not cool.
I mean,
and
it's interesting information just because it did happen like this last week or whatever. But yeah, it is kind of lame.
Did they announce like pricing at all?
Not that I recall, but maybe they did.
I don't think they did. I don't think so. But I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to something we actually care about.
Yeah, this one's way more interesting.
2 new Switches. There's rumors, like, first I heard, oh, there's going to be a cheaper Switch. And then I heard, oh, no, it's going to be a premium Switch. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Now it's being reported both of those things are going to come out.
Yeah, both are true. So, yeah, those rumors were circulating for a long time that, like, they were going to do either one of those things, and they ended up doing both, so.
Now, of the 3 people I know that own a Switch, you, me, my friend Sean, I feel like I am the only one that will maybe buy one of these new models because my partner also plays Switch, and so I could just give her my old Switch and buy a new one.
Yeah.
But you probably would not want to upgrade or downgrade, right?
Yeah, it's weird. So, like, for sure, the upgraded one is just like a spec boost that will
probably
still,
a bigger screen
that will still fit all, like, it's the same footprint basically. So all the old accessories and like the Labo stuff will still work with it, right?
I would wonder if they would maybe. The main concern has been the Joy-Cons are too small in people's giant hands, so I was expecting bigger Joy-Cons.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's possible. The thing I was thinking about was, like, they just did that, like, VR Labo kit. Right. And, like, the way to do that well is to have, like, a higher resolution screen. So I feel like I thought they were just going to, like, trim down the bezels, maybe increase the resolution, and maybe make it a little bit more powerful to like run things a little bit smoother, but otherwise to keep the same footprint so all your old accessories would still work with it. But I don't know, maybe you're right. Maybe they make just a larger device.
That's what I was anticipating, is so the Pro model would be bigger, higher resolution, a little bit of a spec bump. But like the main thing, I feel like the main selling point.
2 different size Joy-Cons?
Yeah, because then they could make more. I mean, think about this. They could start producing different cases. They could start producing a whole bunch of different stuff. That's just more revenue or like product out the door that they could sell, you know?
Yeah.
Also, what if they start discontinuing the regular Switch?
Well, that was going to be my next question is, does this mean that the model that we have is discontinued? Like, there's no reason to keep making that anymore? Because surely they wouldn't have 3 different SKUs of this thing.
It's a good question, and I wonder how downgraded the light one would be. Like, would it still have detachable Joy-Cons?
I think it won't. So the rumor is that the like smaller one is more of a replacement for like the 3DS. So it's like gonna be smaller. The Joy-Cons won't detach and it won't have a dock. You're just getting like a smaller Switch. And
that's only portable.
Yeah, that's only portable. And then the other rumor was that the larger one, like maybe they even do like, because it's more powerful, that makes it so that they can like add more people, like more partners with the developers. Like maybe they were trying to get GTA 5 to run on this thing, but they just couldn't do it. But now if they do like a little bit of a spec bump with a pro version of the Switch, then suddenly more stuff is able to be ported to it.
Red Dead?
Yeah, maybe Red Dead, who knows?
Man, that would be crazy.
So, like, maybe we'll need to, or, like, really want to upgrade to the pro version of it just to, like, I don't know, be able to have access to like games that you couldn't get running on your normal Switch.
That's a good point. I mean, I don't know, man. It would really depend on, one, the price. Like, obviously, the Pro model will probably be more expensive than base Switch, which was $300. We're talking $400 to $500, I would assume.
Yeah.
Light version will probably be $200.
I mean, for sure, nobody thinks they're going like up-res to 4K, right?
No. But like, what is the Switch right now? Is it 720?
So the screen, the mobile screen is 720, but in the dock it's up-res to 1080p.
So it could be a 1080 screen.
Yeah, so that's what I think most people are speculating, is that the portable screen will be 1080p.
Imagine a Joy-Con that is more shaped like a side of like a PS4 or an Xbox controller. Like, it contours a little bit to your hand and is a little larger.
Yeah, I mean,
I've never played a shooter on Switch, but I would assume it gets a little uncomfortable sometimes because you have to use both the triggers and both of the analog sticks at the same time.
Yeah, I haven't either. Like, I've played Skyrim, but that's not really like a shooter. It's just more of a first-person game where you do shoot like a bow and some powers now and then. But yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like they just are gonna say those people are gonna rely on the Pro controller and the dock.
Yeah,
maybe. But I feel like that's just more opportunity for them to produce more stuff like you were talking about before. Like, why not just make a set of Joy-Cons that are shaped like that?
A new Pro controller that literally clicks in half and puts it on to same form factor as the Pro controller, maybe a little smaller, but clicks in half and that's the new standalone, you know?
Yeah. Like, those,
that would be crazy.
Those could attach to the side, and yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know if they'll do that, but that would be really interesting.
I don't know. We'll see. Definitely probably will have a more robust kickstand.
Yeah, hopefully. One that doesn't break off immediately.
We'll know about it probably at E3 during a Nintendo Direct, but maybe we'll also see a PlayStation Direct at E3.
We might, because the first State of Play...
That is the very first one. It's
first ever.
Very tri-pilled, yeah.
It's their version of the Nintendo Direct, but they're calling it State of Play. It's a live stream that I think this is what they're going to instead of doing like the E3 stuff. They're just following Nintendo's lead on this.
I have to say, I don't like this.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, I know it's like stressful for the companies and it doesn't make sense and it's more expensive, but I like...
You like the spectacle.
I like the spectacle. Like, they should be at E3. It's insane to me they're not at E3. And like, I don't know, it's rather like, would you rather, I don't know, I guess this is a bad example, but would you rather be hungry all day and then have a giant feast at night, or be snacking all day? Obviously, you probably want to be snacking all day, but it's very satisfying to sit down to a giant meal at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, from their perspective, this not just makes it cheaper, but they can, like, they have a little bit more control over, like, when they're releasing information. So they're not, like, forced to do that all around, like, one event. Like,
yeah.
But, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I also will, like, be sad that they won't be at E3 doing, like a
what's
huge
more impressive
conference.
to you? Like, for a console release, has there ever been a console release where there isn't someone on stage and they're like, this is, PlayStation 3 or whatever?
Yeah.
It's just like, if State of Play is where they announce
that.
If this is where they, like, but what if State of Play is the new norm and we just get a pre-produced video of someone being like, not even on screen, like a voiceover just saying like, take a look at this. Like, it doesn't have the same gravitas.
Yeah, I mean, how did you feel about the Switch being announced? Because that's what Nintendo did. So
I don't remember.
They released like a 3-minute long video about it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was great, and I watched that video probably like 50 times. Okay, I'm wrong actually. I hope this is just because they don't have the PS5 yet, and they are still figuring stuff out. And I hope there like is a return to form later on.
I also think it is mainly there's two reasons. One, they don't have the PS5 ready to talk about, but also they don't have a lot of games outside of like like the big ones that aren't even coming out this year, it seems like. So it's kind of like the lineup that they had, which I was going to kind of go through briefly. It's mainly like PSVR stuff. Like they introduced an
lots
Iron
of VR.
Man.
It was very VR heavy.
It was very VR heavy. But they introduced a new Iron Man VR game. There was like a Five Nights at Freddy's VR game. There was this game called Concrete Genie, Crash Team Racing, Nitro fueled, ReadySet Heroes, a new game that actually kind of seems a little bit interesting. I wrote in our show notes the Gambit of dungeon crawlers because that's what it kind of seemed like. And then they also showed the new No Man's Sky Beyond update that's going to add PlayStation VR support.
This is a big deal, I think. This is like probably the thing I'm most excited about from the whole state of play.
Did you end up playing No Man's Sky at all?
I didn't, but I know that it's gotten better and better from the release, and this Beyond update is also going to get way better.
But
the fact
crazy.
The fact that it's in VR, like right now, if you want multiplayer space exploration VR, you basically have what's that game called? Elite Dangerous is what I'm thinking of. That's great, but it's also very complicated, and also I think you rarely get out of your this is No Man's Sky in multiplayer. It's almost a metaverse. Like being able to drop into your friends' games, free movement, doing crazy stuff. Like this is going to feel amazing in VR. There's so much you can get in different vehicles. You're going to be mining stuff. It's a step above Minecraft in VR basically, because you can just chill out in this game. I mean, seemingly for infinity because there's so many worlds and do crazy stuff. Like this is going to feel like a world you're visiting instead of just a game you're playing, you know?
It is kind of like the biggest of sandboxes, and just the idea that you can be in this VR space and you hop in a ship and you take off, you fly into outer space, you see a planet, you fly over to it and you go land on it. Like this is sort of like the promise of what No Man's Sky always was.
Yeah.
But in a VR space where you can now also play it with your friends. That is
I feel like this
crazy.
is the killer app for PSVR.
Yeah, this definitely would have been nice to have around a long time ago for PSVR.
I think it's also coming out for Steam as well.
Is it? Yeah. Yeah,
for the Vive, I mean.
Yeah, this stuff is some of it's kind of cool, but to get back to the point that I was trying to make earlier, I don't know if this is would this fill an E3 press conference? And
definitely not.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't see this lineup and then maybe another trailer for one of the games that is their big games that's not ready to come out yet, and then put this up against whatever Microsoft's going to bring. No, it's not quite enough or to the level of that. So
press conference is going to be nigh impossible to beat this year, I assume.
That's what I think too, especially since they may have details about their next console or whatever xCloud is, or whether that's ready to go yet.
But also they own so many developers now. Guarantee they had Cyberpunk stuff last year, and we're going to talk about this in a second, but I assume there's going to be a ton more Cyberpunk stuff this year, probably at the Microsoft press conference.
Well, it can't be
I don't know, man.
Sony's. So.
No, exactly.
Well, and I almost wonder if they're going to have their own thing now. We can maybe jump ahead to that story.
Sure,
but
yeah, we can do that.
CD Projekt Red was, I think, doing an interview with somebody, and they were talking about how this year's E3 is the most important E3 ever for them. And everybody's been trying to figure out what they mean by that. And it's pretty exciting because obviously everybody wants to know more about Cyberpunk 2077. But what else do they have in store?
Well, I mean, we saw a very vertical slice of gameplay. It was somewhat random, but it was very curated, I would think.
Yeah.
I think you follow Ben Hansen from Game Informer on Twitter, as do I. And he brought up a good point that last year was the year, last year is maybe untoppable because that was the first like footage we got to see, and then a couple like weeks or months later, we got to see that full vertical slice of gameplay. Like that was everyone's like thing of the show last year, was the behind closed doors like 30 or 45 minute demo of Cyberpunk. And now this year, like, how do you top that? You know, like, you're going to show us more stuff, but that first initial glance, you know.
Well, and also I have the feeling that the game is big enough that they have a ton more that they could show that wasn't in that footage that we got to see last year.
That's true. I mean, I am very hopeful for this. I think it's going to be, right now, it's like my most anticipated game. Maybe.
Oh, for sure.
Starfield, even though we've seen like 0 seconds of that.
Yeah, since we don't know enough about that to really make a call on it, for like Cyberpunk 2077 is like the sure call right now.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think if they actually get this in people's hands, like not behind closed doors, not curated, because I'm pretty sure during those behind closed doors, they only let developers play. No one actually touched the game. This is the E3 where people are going to start to touch and test the limits of this game. And they've been lauded for their city tech, but people are going to be going around trying to break their city tech and like find glitches in the machine, as it were. And so they have to have a solid engine, you know?
Yeah, for sure they're going to...
You can drive a car in this game.
They're going to go up on that Microsoft stage and like show off a several-minute demo of stuff that we probably haven't seen before, and it's going to blow everyone away. And then they're going to, at the end of it, they're going to give the release date, and then it's going to be playable for people, and we're going to get a whole bunch more footage of it. And so I guess that's probably why.
They have been adamant that this game is coming out on the current generation.
I know. They've been saying for a long time, because I think after seeing that footage, or hearing people talk about that footage at E3, everybody was like, this looks almost too good to be on current consoles. Yeah. Like, is this a PS5 and Xbox 2 game? And they came out very adamantly and said, we are building this for current consoles.
Would you like to not place a bet, but would you like to speculate about what the final frame, the release date that fades in, will be at the end of this crazy trailer?
I feel like everybody will lose their minds if they say fall of this year.
Yeah.
Which is why I almost don't know if that's what it's going to be, but maybe it is. I think that
CD Projekt Red are great developers, and they're famous for, you know, waiting until a game is done to release it. So
up till now, their statement as to like when the game is coming out is when it's ready. Like, whenever anybody asks, that's what they say, which is a cool way to go about it, because so many games get rushed out the door too early.
What if the reason this is their most important E3 is because they have to announce that they were wrong? It's actually coming out next generation. You have to wait like another year to 2 years for it. So they have to garner a bunch of goodwill because they're about to dash people's hopes.
I don't know. Like, I was speculating even during last year's E3 that this game will be one of those games that sort of bridges a console generation, where it comes out on last gen hardware, but is also like up-resed and maybe has additional features on the next gen.
With added, like Skyrim, basically, where you can, like, now the only version of Skyrim you can buy on PS4 is like the Legendary Edition with like the 5 DLCs that came out.
So like, maybe that is what happens, but it's still like too soon to tell.
I cannot wait for E3.
Yeah. I mean, even if only to find out more about Cyberpunk, I am definitely extremely excited. Plus, I also, like, we're going to find out more about what Microsoft's next gen plans are. So
we're going to find out so much stuff. We're going to find out about Halo Infinite, which could be insane, and also maybe playable on the Switch, which is an insane thing to say.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, what is the plan there?
We could speculate endlessly about E3, and we probably will begin to do that every show as we near June, whatever, like the second week of June.
Yeah.
But should we talk about this Divinity game?
We should. I don't know a whole lot about it other than that they announced this week that there is a new Divinity game that's sort of like a tactics game that's supposed to pick up where Divinity Original Sin 2 left off. And I need to go back and finish that game.
I do too.
Or just like play a ton more of it. Like you could play as so many different characters in that game that I feel like you could be playing that game forever. But yeah.
They're basically, people are very into the RPing part of that, the role-playing part of that game. But I always enjoyed the co-op combat because I feel like that doesn't really exist anywhere else. The ability to play a game with someone and to both be in a turn-based combat against enemies. I feel like that's kind of a unique thing. And that's basically what they're stripping out of the game, and they're making a game that is just that. Which I am it's basically like playing XCOM with a friend. Yeah,
that is pretty interesting to me as well. I still feel like I need to like try to burn through Original Sin 2 before this thing comes out now that this has been announced. But we should definitely play this.
I would be into this. I love co-op turn-based stuff. So I would be very into playing this with you.
Yeah, me as well. Was there co-op in Divinity Original Sin 2? Because wasn't there like a D&D mode?
Oh, yeah, I never played with that, but you could play the main story cooperatively.
Yeah, that would have been pretty cool to do as well. But yeah, we should definitely take a look at this when this comes out later.
Zach, you're a fan of Game of Thrones.
I'm a fan of Game of Thrones. I am not so much a fan of Dark Souls, but From Software is apparently teaming up with George R.R. Martin to work on a new game.
What a weird combo.
Yeah, what a weird combo. Did anyone... I guess if you're looking at like fantasy franchises and you're like, what should From Software do? Obviously, I'm sure somebody's dream game has been like a Game of Thrones version of like the Soulsborne games, but... I don't know if they have released very much info about this, but it's going to be apparently an RPG game. There wasn't there rumors for a long time about Bethesda trying to work on like a Game of Thrones game, and then it just like never happened. I'm wondering if maybe that's what this is now, like the idea of a Game of Thrones RPG game. And they were just trying to find the right developer to do it. And now that...
From is a weird developer to do it.
It's true. Well, it is and it isn't. Because, I mean, people love their games. But it's a very particular style that I don't know whether people are going to be into or not, at least in the Game of Thrones setting. But maybe there's crossover there. I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see. I want to talk about Twitch Squads.
Twitch Squads. Tell me about that.
Zach, I don't know about you, but the main thing I watch on Twitch whenever there isn't an AGDQ or SGDQ happening is people playing PUBG and now Apex Legends. And often people will play in squads or duos, and the way to watch those right now is to just have two separate Chrome tabs side by side. But Twitch Squads is now a way for creators to basically have multiple streams happening in the same window natively. So if I was watching...
No, there's a way to do it.
Oh, is there?
Multi-Twitch. You type in multitwitch.tv and then you do / and you add the the tag of the first person you're trying to watch and then / and the next person. And then it puts them together, and then you can just like you can either have both of their audio on at the same time, or you just mute the one you don't want to listen to.
So, but that's like that's client side. This would be the choice of the creator.
Yeah. This is like building it in from their side of things, so that you don't have to like jump through this hoop in order to get to it.
This would be like something you can't turn off.
Well, that too.
Although maybe you could, I don't know. But like this would be super, I don't know. I've like mainly for PUBG and Apex, I feel like this would be interesting. But any game where people are playing against each other, I feel like, I mean, definitely, I assume Stadia, if it takes off, is going to have some sort of implementation of this. where if you want to watch multiple people playing on Stadia, it would be an easy thing to just load that into a YouTube window. But
yeah,
I don't know. I thought it was interesting, and maybe we'll see more of that in the coming weeks when they launch it. Zach, do you care? Have you ever played? Are you interested in Borderlands?
I have played the first Borderlands back in the day. I did not play Borderlands 2. Actually, I started Borderlands 2 and got busy with life things and then did not make it any further. I don't know. I like the like gunplay of those games and like the finding loot all the time. And
do you have supers in those games?
You have like character abilities, yeah, but I don't know if you call them supers, but
do you play specific characters, or is your character a customizable person? Is there character creation?
You have like your choice between like 4 different characters, and you'll just pick one of them, and they have their own like special abilities or whatever. Like in the first Borderlands, I played as Mordecai, I think was his name, and he had this like hawk that you could like throw out, and it would like damage people. It was pretty cool. And then there's something really satisfying about when like loot drops on the ground and it's just this like purple beam of light shooting up, and you walk over to it and you like hold the pickup button, and it just like it goes from the ground and just sort of leaps at you into your inventory. I don't know what it is about that small, simple little detail that makes it so satisfying, but
how many guns can you hold at a time?
I don't know, actually. It's been so long.
How does Borderlands work?
So it's basically Mad Max. And
we should say we're talking about this because they announced Borderlands 3 today.
Yeah, was that not clear? There was a reveal. It looks very Borderlandsy, so not unlike past Borderlands. I think the speculation was that it was going to be like a Destiny style game this time, and I guess it could still be that, but
is that the so spoiler? I mean, I guess I should say I have not watched this reveal trailer because I don't really care about Borderlands.
I mean, it looks mainly like more Borderlands. Like Borderlands, I think the Game Informer crew were calling it Borderlands 2.5, which I don't know if that's just because it looks so similar to like the other 2 Borderlands games, or if it's the fact that the graphics sort of visually, it doesn't look like it's advanced at all. Like when I watched the trailer, I was like, oh, they've like this art style hasn't been advanced at all. This looks like just like the resolution is higher because we're on like more powerful hardware now than we were during the 360 generation. But otherwise, this basically looks like another one of those. It doesn't look like they've made a whole lot of progress in that department, which honestly probably won't bother most people, but it's just a thing that I observed.
Zach, there's a claim in this trailer that there are 1 billion guns in this game.
Oh, really? They didn't go with bazillion?
Oh, did they go with bazillion? I didn't read it.
They usually do. That's their thing. So, like, the first Borderlands was really interesting, not because it was, like, a blending of the RPG and the first-person shooter, which it was that, and that was very interesting, but it also had this sort of, like, procedurally generated loot drops where their like key thing was we have a bazillion guns, like 87 bazillion guns, I think was like the one of the last lines in the trailer for the first game, because all the loot is just sort of randomly generated. So they have like,
but there are like named guns though, right? Because I always have seen online like guns with funny descriptions on them.
I'm assuming those are in there. I don't know how the series really evolved from the first game to the second game because I don't remember it that well. It's been that long. But I know it was like their thing was that it was all sort of procedurally generated in terms of the loot, where like you could get a like light machine gun that had like a whole bunch of different characteristics of it where it would change depending on how the random roll of it was. And so, yeah, that's how they got to 87 bazillion guns.
So I just scrubbed through the trailer and it does say over 1 billion guns.
Yeah. So I think the only thing that stood out to me when I watched this trailer was that part where they're kind of fast cutting between like them running through locations. And it's like dusty wasteland, like futuristic cityscape, and then back
I saw a screenshot of that.
dusty wasteland again. I was like, wait, go back a second.
It seems like there's also a swamp as well.
Yeah.
Based on my cursory glance at this.
Yeah.
Do you think you would play this? Are you interested in this at all?
I don't know. I don't know if it's just because I didn't play Borderlands 2 that I'm kind of like a little more cold on the Borderlands series, but I think it's really good is the thing. Like, I don't
love the art style.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that as well. The art style, I think, could use some updating a little bit. But people really, really love the Borderlands games, and they like, they're very, very tight shooters. So like the reason people play Destiny all the time is because the shooting feels really good in that game.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with Borderlands. The shooting just feels very, very good in a Borderlands game, but also you have that added, like, you're always finding new interesting weapon drops because of that system that they have where they've got crazy loot and you want to pick it up and try that next gun or whatever. So there's like plenty of reason to love Borderlands. I don't know that either of us particularly do, just because we don't particularly love the art style, and I think the humor is also a little over the top in a semi off-putting way. But maybe that's just me. Like, it feels like it's trying
I agree with that.
Pretty hard a lot of the time and not necessarily landing.
Well, I guess we'll probably, I assume they'll have, is it playable at PAX East right now, or will we have to wait until E3 to see a playable demo?
I'm not sure. I would assume E3, but maybe.
Yeah. Zach, do you have Amazon Prime?
I do.
Zach, you now have Switch Online.
I do? What is this?
You are officially inducted into having Switch Online for some reason because you have Amazon Prime.
What?
If you have Twitch Prime, you can now go into Twitch Prime and activate Switch Online for 1 year.
That's crazy. Is this like some sort of new deal that Nintendo worked out with Amazon?
I guess Nintendo is going crazy. They're giving their IPs to developers. They're partners with Microsoft. They're partnering with Amazon. They're just like, they're doing it all, man.
Living a free and open lifestyle right now. They liked to have many partners.
If you have Amazon Prime, that means you have Twitch Prime. So just go to your Twitch Prime, and either today or tomorrow or at some point, you'll see a button that says like, you know, Switch Online. Do you want it for a year or something like that? Click that, activate it, and boom, you've got Switch Online for 12 months.
That's awesome. I'm definitely going to do this because now I can try that Tetris Online, Tetris 99 game.
Yeah, you can do that.
I've been practicing because of Tetris Effect. I might be good, but I probably am also not. So, but
it was a weird announcement that came out today.
Yeah, like, what is this? It's so like, where did this come from? But all right, I mean, I'll take it. I'm not mad about it.
Should we talk about some new games?
We should. So,
bunch of new games, and there's one. There's only one I want to talk about.
Yeah, there's only one that we can really spend a whole lot of time talking about because it's the only one that either of us has played. But there's some new big, interesting releases out that people have been playing, and they like them mainly. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. We're talking about From Software earlier, and the general consensus is that it's very good, but that the combat is just different enough from like the other like Soulsborne games that you can't necessarily just fall back on what you've done in those games. So you do still sort of have to like learn the boss fights and everything. Not really for either of us, because I don't think either of us particularly love the sort of grinding over and over again, like one boss fight.
Yeah, I have heard people say that like the open world and traversal is really interesting, but the boss fights are still From Software boss fights. So like, I don't know. I mean, I like difficulty, but I've just never really been into Soulsborne type games.
Yeah, me neither. And I think it's mainly because like I've always been told like unless you have like a lot of time for this game, like you should not play it. Like if you play like an hour or two in the evenings, like this game just isn't for you because you'll probably
you need to develop muscle memory.
Yeah, you got to develop that muscle memory, but also just like if you get on and you've only got like an hour or two, you may not finish the boss fight. So you may just sort of feel like you're wheel spinning and just not ever making any progress in the game, which can be very frustrating.
Yeah, if you don't make it to a new bonfire, basically all you've done is nothing.
Yeah, so I've always found that also very off-putting about them, but I mean, people love them, so they're doing something right. It's just not necessarily for us.
Division 2
I was going to say
is also doing something right.
Speaking of that case, the Division 2, although like the main thing I've heard about this game is that it's just not broken, which I guess is an accomplishment these days.
I've heard people saying they've had a lot of fun with it.
They also
I'm a little bummed we didn't jump in, but also I have so much on my plate right now. I'm glad we're not actively like grinding in it.
That's the thing. Like it is mechanically very solid, and it's still exactly what people who enjoyed the first Division will continue to enjoy in this like new game. It's just like, do we need another one of these on our plate right now?
And I think the first in-game thing comes out like next week.
Yeah, so there's that. Then there's Battlefield 5 Firestorm, which I think people don't like.
No, I watched that Choco Taco guy who I watch play PUBG all the time. I watched him like the first minutes of him playing, and it was all just like, it's one of these games. Or like all these things were wrong with the UI, like duos is not enabled, and there's just like weird stuff going on. I feel I've only heard negative things about it. And also like, it's happening now. Like you had so much time, and Apex is happening, and
it's just I don't know. It's such a weird story. Like everything that surrounds this game mode, like EA, like just sort of hot dropped Apex Legends like a month before this thing comes out, and it's like in every way a better version of Battle Royale.
100%.
And that Shroud guy apparently somebody had like put together an article about like his thoughts on Firestorm, and they were like pretty brief. They were like, it's pretty, but it seems like they didn't pay any attention whatsoever to like what a battle royale is or why they're fun or good. They like didn't do any of that stuff to like when they were developing it, because like even just like the loot system in it is just like bad by comparison to like pretty much any other battle royale game out there right now. So I don't know, like this is just like a bad decision all around, it seems like.
I want to know if Elder Scrolls Blades is a bad decision. Zach, you got into this. You're actively playing it.
I started it very briefly. I couldn't actually get in at first. They had this like message up there that was like, thanks for downloading the game, but you like we're only letting so many people in at a time or whatever, because it's like early access. But I don't know. It's interesting. I think the controls need some tweaking, especially like the look, like where you kind of swipe around to like rotate your camera. That needs some tweaking. It's not very smooth right now.
Can you play over Bluetooth?
That's a good question. I've not tried connecting my Moga controller to this yet, but I like the idea of it. It just like, it remains to be seen, like content wise, and like how this thing holds up once you start playing it on other devices, because the promise of it is that it's also going to be like on consoles and PC. And so the idea is that you can basically play this thing anywhere and then just like jump back and forth between all of them, and your progress is like carried over.
Do you think that they were making this game and they're like, oh yeah, this is such a good idea, you can play it anywhere, and then they saw that Stadia announcement and they were like, oh man.
Yeah, I think so a little bit.
Could have just been building this on Stadia.
I was gonna say that. I was like, I think they're this was born out of them wanting to get Skyrim on mobile devices because they were
100%.
They were trying to port it to everything, and so they wanted to get Skyrim on iOS and Android, but they couldn't make it work. And so instead they like compromised and are like, well, let's just build a mobile version of like an Elder Scrolls game that's very like Elder Scrolls light or whatever. And then because it's so light and like the controls are so sort of like not very intense, we can just like make it playable on everything. We'll do the reverse of it.
Can you jump?
You can't.
Can you crouch and sneak?
You can't. You like start off in this town that has been like burnt to the ground basically by some mercenaries. And there's this like queen who like rules them and ordered them to do it. And so you're like trying to help the town get back on its feet, and you like name it. And you go on these little missions, and it's like very like a mobile game where these missions are like good for like a couple minutes, so you can like easily pick it up and put it back down again. They're designed around like short sort of encounters type of a thing. But basically you'll go talk to somebody and they'll give you like a mission, or there's like a jobs board that refreshes every few hours or whatever. And you can see like what rewards you'll get like when you go to do the mission. And so you'll launch the mission, and it's basically like a little dungeon. It's just very brief. You have a few hallways and some corridors to go through. You'll fight some enemies. You'll break some pots and get some items out of it. And you might find like some chests, and the chests, they're on like sort of a timer system where you'll hit open or unlock or whatever, and there's like different tiers of chests. So like a wooden chest is like the most basic one, and that takes like 5 seconds to unlock or whatever. But then you have like silver and gold, and I think it goes up even higher than that in terms of like rarity and value for what you get, like in terms of items in those. And like the amount of time it takes to open them also goes up with each of them. From like
Zach, I'm gonna ask you a very important question.
Okay.
Can you pay money to decrease the amount of time chests take to open?
You can, but you would pay to, I think, like you get these like green thingies, like these green, it's like some sort of in-game currency, like green coins or whatever. And you get those fairly frequently, but some of the stuff to like unlock them costs an awful lot. So it is like it's very much like you would expect from like a free-to-play game where there is like a microtransaction store. And it is.
This is bumming me out.
I mean, it's everything you expect it to be. But yeah, so you go through these missions and you like queue these chests up to unlock, and then like as you're completing missions you get like resources, and you'll go around and you'll find like a plot of land that has like ruins left from when it was attacked or whatever. And so you can click on that, and then if you have enough resources and money, you can start constructing like a house or something so that more people can live in your town or whatever. And you can build like a smith or whatever, so you can like upgrade your armor and your weapons, or like craft new stuff and sell stuff. And then I don't know, so it's very much trying to rebuild this town, and the more stuff you build in there, like the more prestige your town has, and so you can sort of improve it over time. It's stuff like that.
How does your inventory work? Are you equipping like a chest piece and gauntlets and boots and different weapons?
Yeah, and you can get like multiple ones of each of them. So like right now, I think my character has like a mace that has like shock damage on it. But I also found like a longsword and a knife and like an axe or something like that. And then you can either sell those or like scrap them for parts, and then you can...
Is there encumbrance?
you only have so much inventory space, so I would imagine that you won't get encumbered. You just won't be able to pick up more stuff until you do something with whatever you've got.
So is the only progression building the town, or is there skills progression? Like,
there is
skills. Can you eventually
skills,
get better?
Yeah, there's skills progression, and there are like skill trees and everything. And like I have multiple like magic abilities equipped as well. And so I've been like, when you level up, you still get like the prompt to, do you want to put your level up points into magicka or stamina?
Right.
But health isn't one of them, I guess, for some reason.
Oh.
So you automatically get like a boost to your health when you level up, but it doesn't like ask you if you want to put your points into that. You get to put them into either magicka or stamina.
This just makes me want more Elder Scrolls 6 information.
That's the thing. Like, I don't expect too much of this game, and that's why I say like it's fine. I like the idea of it maybe more than some of the execution on it. It is just to hold you over until the next Elder Scrolls game, basically. Like between this and just replaying Skyrim, it's just supposed to help you sort of feel like you're getting some of that Elder Scrolls fix until the next game comes out. But I do like the idea that you can sort of play this in landscape and you kind of have the traditional, like on the left side of the screen, there's like a virtual joystick and you can like move the camera around with your right thumb. Or if you don't want to play it that way, you can still hold it in like portrait mode and you just like tap around, so you can still like play this game with one hand.
We talked about this before we started recording, but I have a Note 5. I have an old phone. I'm overdue to get a new one, but currently, even if I had access to this beta, I could not get into it because my device is not supported. It's like Galaxy S8s and above and like Pixel 2s and above, things like that. But I have no reason not to believe that my phone could handle Stadia, because it's just streaming from a server, and I think it's somewhat likely that Skyrim will be a launch title on Stadia since they're working with id and Doom Eternal. Like, why not just play Skyrim on my phone? Like, it seems like a better thing than Blades, and it will look better.
Yeah,
because it won't be hindered by my terrible like chipset or whatever.
That is the question, and it will depend on like your internet for Stadia as well, but that's going to be the real question for people. Like, once Stadia comes out, like why bother with games, Blades, which is very clearly designed for mobile, when you could play like a full Elder Scrolls experience, no matter what your hardware is. I like this, like earlier when we were talking about Apple Arcade, like cool, there's going to be more mobile apps, but like what if Stadia is just like, oh, mobile apps don't need to exist anymore when 5G comes around. And you mean like in terms of games? Yeah.
In terms of games, yeah. But also, I mean, if Google wants to do like crazy,
have like a use case for like mobile games, because there's still going to be like AR stuff probably.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. But even that, I mean, like if like depending on the latency of, this is the real thing though. I just thought about this. Like I think we talked about last week how like VR needs like two basically inputs, for one for each eye at slightly different angles. And that's very resource heavy. But they were talking about being able to have multiple streams in a Stadia stream because, you know, if you want to see other people's perspectives or whatnot, it makes couch co-op possible because they're basically just rendering it on their server. If Google can make like Google Glass that like just like pulls from some offline server and doesn't need any like graphics card on a chipset, that's going to be amazing for AR and VR. That's going to be the metaverse.
Yeah, it is like very freeing technology that makes it so that old hardware, like you don't have to stress about like updating.
That's going to be the future that everyone in like the 80s foresaw, where you're just like, you're buying the new like headset and it doesn't really matter what like computer or deck you have or whatever. You just need like higher resolution goggles.
Yeah.
It's going to be like Snow Crash or something like that.
I do think that's the future. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's the future is what I was exactly going to say that.
It is like for sure the future, but I also think it's like maybe a solid at least like 5 years out. Just because
it will depend heavily on 5G rollout because you're going to need those like gigabit speeds if you're doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's going to depend so heavily on your internet, and like 5G is going to help with that substantially. But like we're just not there in so many places, especially in the Midwest, like where we live. That
100%. Yeah,
a lot of people are still going to be better off just like buying dedicated hardware to download games onto to run off of that hardware. And so I've been back and forth on this. I am excited for Stadia because I do think that's the future, and I think it's such interesting technology that makes it so that people will be able to not spend as much money on like actual hardware, but still get to play the latest games when they want to play them, you know? But I also still see the side of it where people are going to want like dedicated gaming hardware for like the best possible experience, especially when it comes to like online games or like multiplayer games or any game that like requires sort of like twitchy reaction time.
Right.
There's just that element of delay that comes with like a streaming thing.
Well, but here's another use case for Stadia, which I feel like no one is talking about. You can play games on PCs that don't belong to you. Like, in every one of my classrooms in college, there are just PCs, and I'm like writing on them and stuff. But the teacher can't see what I'm doing. I could just load it, or like back when I used to work at our old job, I had an office with a computer in it. I don't have to download anything. I can just go to a Chrome tab and start playing games at work, and then just like Alt F4 if someone walks in,
Yeah, it's true. Like when I worked at our old job overnights, and I would get super bored just hanging out by myself in a room for like hours on end. I totally would have just opened a Chrome tab and played a game for like,
wouldn't that have been crazy?
A while, yeah.
That's a use case that I feel like no one has really discussed, is like you can go to a public library or like anywhere. If your internet is bad, go to a place where the internet is good. If you're a college student, like there's so many, I mean, we're both going to college right now, and I don't know about your college, but there are just PCs available to use everywhere at my college.
There are for sure. And this might be like a thing that maybe revives the internet cafe in like the West. Like there's still a huge thing in like Asian countries, but like they're basically non-existent here in the West. What if they like people start, opening internet cafes that are like gaming related that have just like crazy fast internet so that people can come play games on Stadia?
I would love that. As a child, I think I was like 10 or something, right next to the Albertsons. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a grocery store that I used to go to. Like a LAN gaming place opened up because this was like the 90s. And so we walked over there, and they just had like a bunch of PCs in a circle, and you could rent the place out and play like old school FPSs LAN networked up. And I was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
And so they let me play for a while for free since I was a child. And they had Blood running, or maybe Blood 2. And I was jumping around and doing stuff, and I like crouched into a place, and the guy watching me who worked there was like, oh my God, you just crouched. How did you do that? And I was like, oh, I held control. He was like, whoa, how'd you know it was control? And I was like, it's always control. And then like 2 weeks later, that place shut down because it seemed like no one knew what they were doing there. But you're right. This could be a new model, especially if like what we were talking about, if Google is like, oh yeah, also Google Cardboard is now Google Plastic and like pulls directly from our servers, but you need a super fast internet connection. You need like business internet. That could be a thing where like cyber VR cafes open up, and that's the future I want to live in.
Yeah, I mean, those could just be an extension of the internet cafes that we were talking about. Like I only thought of it because actually where I go to school in like Iowa City, this guy graduated from University of Iowa. I don't know how long ago, but he opened this basically an internet cafe, but it's like,
oh, crazy.
but it's like with he even named it. It was like Iowa Esports or something like that. So it's like all about like gaming hardware in there.
I'm very into that.
Yeah. So I was like, well, like those places are gonna like start popping up if like Stadia really takes off, because people are gonna maybe need like not necessarily powerful computers, but like powerful internet, and that's not necessarily something everybody's gonna have.
Like, I'm studying right now to be an IT person, and I feel like a lot of an IT person's time is just sitting in the IT room waiting for people to call you with problems. And I could just be like, I would be able to like control the internet for that building. And so I could just give myself very low latency and just be chilling out, playing whatever in my IT room. Any future coworkers that are listening to this, I'm not going to do that.
But definitely he will. And also, I want to work at that place now.
I'm telling you, man. Like, this is a use case that no one is talking about, but you don't, as long as you're logged into the Chrome, like, you don't need to own the computer anywhere you are. If there's a business center at a La Quinta, you can go to that business center. Instead of printing off, like, spreadsheets, you can play a video game in, like, a corner.
It's true. Like, I remember when I like first started at that place that we were talking about, I would get on the computer and I would see like somebody downloaded iTunes or whatever, and they were like, oh, I don't know if I want to like one, you can't download stuff because it's like locked. You have to have like admin passwords or whatever. They wanted to download iTunes, they couldn't get it, or some people like got somebody to let them download iTunes just so they could like listen to music or whatever. And I was like, you guys are all
Spotify.
You guys are all chumps. Like, let me just log into my Google account and pull up Google Play Music, RIP.
Yeah, man. RIP.
And yeah, I had my entire music library uploaded to the cloud right there, ready to go. And then I just like closed the tab, and I like nobody was the wiser.
Yeah, it's great. And I don't know, I'm super pumped for Stadia, but we are running a little long, so should we move on to what we're watching and playing?
We should, because this week, What We Do in the Shadows has started the FX series, the TV series, not the movie, the TV series. Season 1, episode 1 was on Wednesday night. I think they run on Wednesday nights. Did you get a chance to watch it?
I downloaded a torrent of it, or I mean, I found a legal way to watch it, but I have not watched it yet.
Well, it still maintains the feel of the movie, which is good. I don't remember if it was directed by them. I know that Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement did serve as executive producers. I want to say they also wrote and directed it, but
I think Jermaine directed the first episode.
Yeah. But yeah, those guys are great. I'm a big Matt Berry fan, so the fact that they're all working together is like pretty awesome to me. Like he and Richard Ayoade and Noel Fielding and all those guys that like work together, and like really their prime time, I guess, was in like the mid to late 2000s with like Garth Marenghi's Dark Place and the IT Crowd and the Mighty Boosh, and there was others like Snuffbox, and now Toast of London was more recent, but like all of those shows were great and they're so much fun. And so I follow like those guys, and I'm always hoping for them to like do something else. And Matt Berry seems to be the only one who's still like doing stuff. At least,
well, Rich Ayoade's directing.
Well, I mean, at least stuff that like we're seeing here in the West, like in America.
Yeah,
because like they all do stuff in like TV for like BBC or whatever, but we don't really have access to that. So
they're on those like a million talking head shows that are like supposedly what all of BBC consists of, where it's just like a panel discussion for 2 hours.
Well, and like I know Richard Ayoade has been on like Travel Man for a while. I don't know if he's still doing that. I forgot about that. I've watched some of those episodes on YouTube. Those are pretty fun. That's a pretty fun show as well. But anyway, well, yeah, what we do in the shadows, I'm looking forward to. I want to see more of it.
Can I tell you something I don't like about it? I have only seen trailers for it, but it seems like one of the main vampires is very anti-humans. He wants to take over all the humans, which I feel like was not the tone of the movie. I like that they were just kind of chilling out and they didn't really care about like killing was just incidental to them. They didn't really care about taking over the world.
Which one or which character?
I think I saw a trailer where the one with the beard is like, we're talking about our new plan to take over the world and make all the humans our slaves. The one with the helper.
I guess I can see that. That is like one of the things, like this new vampire that I don't
like. I
think
want them to have a
in,
human friend, you know?
Yeah. Oh, you want them to have another stew?
Yeah, I love that relationship in that movie.
That was like one of the best parts of that movie, was just how funny it was that they loved Stu more than that other vampire.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. But yeah, I don't know. I also, like, maybe it's just because it doesn't star those three guys that were in the original movie. Like, part of me is like, I feel like I want to see more because I want to like this, but I'm also like nervous that it's just not gonna be the same. But I still like Matt Berry, and I think he's funny in the show. So
yeah, I'm excited to watch it. I'll probably watch it tomorrow. But I have still been playing Baba Is You a lot, and I have unlocked, I think, almost every world. There's 200 puzzles, and
that's a lot of puzzles.
I want to say I've done like 77-ish, maybe more than that. It tells you, but I don't remember. But man, I love it. Some of the puzzles are inscrutable to me, and I have not figured them out, so I've just skipped them. But it's gotten more and more complex. Like, they've just added this block called group that basically makes things into global variables that you can do crazy stuff with. So I'm still really, like, every night, since the Switch is in my bedroom, I will just, like, bust through a couple of puzzles before I go to bed. It's very satisfying. But I just wanted to say, Baba Is You is still great.
All right. I've been watching a thing on Twitch. This isn't like a TV show. I guess it's kind of like a TV show. It's called Kolak 1991. It's like an RPG campaign that's built on like the Kids on a Bike like storytelling set. Are you aware of this?
Yeah, it's similar to Tales from the Loop, right? But more American.
Yeah, it's like, basically I liken it to Stranger Things, because that's what it seems.
Yeah, it's basically Stranger Things.
It's basically Stranger Things, the role-playing game. But
you sent me one of the episodes of this, and the beginning of it, like the opening like scene setter is amazing.
It's
like
very
the
good.
Atmosphere it produces is so good and high quality.
That's why I wanted to highlight this, because I got like, one, the story is like very interesting and I want to like keep watching it and see where it goes. But also like Twitch has, like, you can go click on, like, people are streaming like D&D campaigns or whatever, where they just have like 5 people on screen at once in like little boxes and they're all like playing the game or whatever. Like, this is like Kolak 1991, just like the production value, like this is like next level versions of that. Like, from one, like they have that intro video that sort of sets everything up and it goes into it. And then like the game master is also like, they're kind of also like acting the parts a little bit, especially like the game master. So like you get really into it, especially like I also listened to some of it as a podcast while I was driving earlier this week, because it also, they put it up as an audio podcast. And so that just makes it very immersive as well. But you really should watch it, because like they do some interesting visual stuff. Like, I don't even know how they did it. Like, they had this one part where the game master was like, I don't want to give anything away in case somebody like wants to watch this, but like he like was talking to one of the characters and he had like given him something that may or may not have been like a drug. And then like the graphical effects around like the game master as he was staring into the camera, like he had like 3 eyes on his head, and there was like this swirling background or whatever, and then it cut to the guy that he was talking to, and like it was on a 2-shot with one of the other players, and then she just like disappeared and it was just him. And I was like, there's no green screen, like how did they do that? And then like the original music that's been produced for it is also like really good. It sounds very like sort of Stranger Things or Twin Peaks, which I should say, like the story of it is also like it's very Stranger Things meets Twin Peaks, where it's kind of got that like uncanny vibe to it. You're in this like small town, and these 4 characters who are like not necessarily friends, but they all know each other because they go to school in like the same town, and they go to school together. And one of their like acquaintances that all of them knows disappears, and they eventually find out that they're the only ones that remember her. And so they're trying to like figure out one, like who took her or what took her, and why are they the only ones in the town that remember her? Like, and everybody has forgotten about her. And it gets like really crazy at different parts. So I would highly recommend it. It's like not as easy to recommend because it's not like a TV show that you can just like pull up, but they do new episodes on Monday nights at like 7 p.m. our time. And then they have live. And then they eventually will send that a recorded version of it up on their YouTube channel on like, I think it was Wednesday is when they uploaded that. So like you can go on their YouTube channel right now. The people that do this show are called Hyper RPG. I'd never heard of them before, but I randomly like happened upon one of their streams and I was like, oh, this is crazy. But yeah, they're Hyper RPG on Twitch and on YouTube. And the name of the show is Kolok 1991. It's KOLLOK. And yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I just based on the opening, which is all the time I had to watch for it. It's crazy. They got that one guy who's famous and is in a bunch of like Tim and Eric stuff.
I want to say he was in Twin Peaks, right?
Oh yeah, he was in Twin Peaks. Yeah, he's the guy whose hair turns completely white at one point, and he like eats those sandwiches with that guy.
Yeah.
Or no, he doesn't eat the sandwiches with the guy. Anyway, yeah. And the music, just like even if you don't have no interest in watching this, watch the opening scene setter video because it is so cool.
It is very cool. Yeah, this is definitely like I think a lot of people are turned off just like when they hear like D&D, they're like, oh, that's not my thing. But like you have to think of it as more of like some sort of
it's collaborative storytelling.
It's collaborative storytelling where like the game master is the only one that knows like what's happening, and everyone else is just sort of like playing a character, but they don't know what's happening, so they're trying to figure it out as they go.
Very compelling. I mean, if you're at all interested in Dungeons & Dragons, it's having like a resurgence, I feel like, lately because of Stranger Things and other things. And obviously, I think maybe we've talked about this before on the show, but like the Adventure Zone really got me into role-playing specifically Dungeons & Dragons. Previously, here's the other thing. I used to play GURPS back in the day, and I still do. But going back to Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, I wrote a Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines GURPS campaign that was based on that game because I was so into that game. Anyway, role-playing games are great.
Yeah, we played one together that you had put together.
That one was based on actually a podcast I used to listen to. It's sort of like an old school Victorian era thing where it just so happens that there's also zombies, it turns out. But yeah, that's always the one I start people with. And then I move into, I wrote like 5 different GURPS campaigns. I have like the Victorian one, I have a cowboy one, I have a space one that's heavily takes from Cowboy Bebop, and I have a Vampire the Masquerade one, which is basically just that game with like less NPCs. And also I made like a crazy metaverse. Anyway, not important.
That was the first time I had done anything like that before, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I had never done like GURPS or Dungeons & Dragons or anything like that. So
for Christmas this year, I ran a Dungeons & Dragons campaign for my parents, and they were super into it. And I would love to run that campaign again because it's a booklet that I got that can go a bunch of different ways, and it takes a lot of the stress out of it because it has basically like consequences for anything you could do. But I don't know. We'll probably talk more about it. Maybe we'll do a special thing where we play some Dungeons & Dragons on this show. That would be really cool.
That would be fun, yeah.
But should we wrap it up? We've gone a little bit over.
We should. This has been a long cast, but that's fine. If you enjoyed the show, go ahead and leave us a like and a comment on YouTube, or leave us a review on iTunes. We're on pretty much all the places you can get podcasts, so check us out on any of those places. And follow us on Twitter at Starside Cafe, and send us an email at starsidecafe@gmail.com. We have Instagram as well, at Starside Cafe.
Instagram.
I think I just actually did upload a bunch of Elder Scrolls Blades images, just so you can see what some of the character creation setup was like. But
Zach, I have some parting wisdom.
Okay.
/ a food recommendation, because I feel like I only ever talk about food during this segment. I have gone on record as saying I don't enjoy eating at Taco John's.
The John who created tacos and named him after himself?
That's correct.
Okay.
But they have a new product called the Quesadilla Taco that I thought I might try. And actually, Zach, it was pretty good.
Did you also get the potato olays? Because I feel like that's really...
Zach, you know I got to get the potato olays.
I feel like that's really the only reason to go to Taco John's, but...
I love tater tots, and there's not a Sonic where I live. So pretty much the only restaurant that sells tater tots that is not like a sit-down restaurant is Taco John's. And so I look for excuses to try and go there, because I hate all of their tacos. I think their tacos are not good. But these quesadilla tacos, Zach, they're pretty all right.
Is this a new thing? Because I should check it out.
Yes, limited time only.
Oh, really?
I got the Chipotle adobo chicken, and I was super into it, but there's also a pork and a sirloin and a beef as well.
My weakness is the potato olays, I'm not gonna lie.
It's so good. I got a medium potato olays, and they're so salty. You don't even have to put salt on them. They're so salty.
You don't need to dip them in anything either, because they're so flavorful. I want some right now.
I'm telling you, man, you gotta get these while they're there. Who knows when they're gonna go away, but these quesadilla tacos are top notch. IMHO.
You might have talked me into it. # not a sponsor, but you might have talked me into it. I'm
very excited for you to. You should tell me all about your experience.
Oh, I will.
All right, well, that concludes this episode 33 of the show that we are doing right now.
Starside Chat.
That's right. You know what? We're probably approaching the 1 year mark, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, we gotta be. I should look up when that first episode went up.
Maybe we'll do a little retrospective. But anyway, yeah, we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.